I think we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to move the mic like there. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but we'll see. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. How is everyone doing? What is going on? So excited to be here. You'll love to see it. Oh, there. I got a notification for my own live stream for once. Ooh, look at that. So fancy. I had a mascara malfunction. I think I still have mascara on my hands. I don't know what the fuck happened. But the mascara I've been using is the Pacifica vegan mascara. And I opened the tube today and there was like so much mascara all over the wand. And I tried cleaning it and it got all over my hands. And so I'm glad I didn't get the waterproof kind. That's what I'll say. So, you know, we lived, we learned, we survived the horrors of having a mascara malfunction. Hopefully I don't have any left on my eyelid. I got some on top of my eyelid, and I think I might still have some left over, but we'll see. But anyways, hello, Dawn Whisper. Hello, Zernecki. Hello, John Brooks. Hello, United Legend. Hello, Rose. Hello, Davlavi. Hello, Casey. Hello, Steve. Hello, Rom. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Mini Cinnabon. Ooh, that's a fun name. We love that. Hello, Marianne. Hello, Ayelmar. Hello, Audrey. Hello, Silver. Hello, Mr. Beansman. Hello, J-Dog. Hello, Liam. Hello, Cedar Wolf. Hello, Michael. Hello, Ace Overlord. Oh my goodness, it has been a minute, Ace Overlord. How you been doing? Hi, Neil. Hi, Leanna. Hi, Damon. Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone. So happy you all could make it today. So, as per usual, this is an interactive Q&A live stream. And what we do here is you guys ask me questions, and I answer them, and we go back and forth, and we talk. And that can be about BDSM stuff, kink, polyamory, asexuality, all of that sort of realm of alternativeness, really. And we have a fun time. We help each other. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we talk about anime. Usually we try to be helpful and, just sort of navigate the complexities of life, as it were. So that is what is on the menu for today. As always, because of the subjects that we cover, this is an 18 plus only live stream, as it says right there, right? Read it, live it, love it. So, 18 plus only. If you are not at least 18, please do not be here. That is for everyone's safety involved, including yours. And also, I do have some just really brief rules and an FAQ down below that you should also check out. I feel like my microphone's a little quiet. Anyways, I think the subtle adjustments I have to, because I put my microphone like away when I'm not using it. And it's like always takes a minute to adjust to like where the perfect location for the microphone is. But anyways, microphone being fixed. What step was that on? I talked about the FAQ. So just some brief rules, right? We don't talk about, medical advice, mental health advice. Go to a professional for that. I don't talk about how to do edge play. So if you want to know how to choke your girlfriend, draw your boyfriend's blood, and use him like a vampiric thrall or whatever, it's not really my area. But I do talk about like pretty much everything else. So I'm really an open book. That is what we do here. And just, let's get into it. So I do have sort of a subject theme for today that I had in mind. How do I start this? There is a kind of smaller, but I think really good YouTube channel that talks about polyamory. And their name is Mainly Mandy. And they did a video recently. There's like a 3-hour long deep dive into this like ethical situation in the poly community. I'm not going to get into the details because it would literally take 3 hours to explain it, but that's basically what happened. And one of the situations was it was a polyamorous relationship that in some portions of it involved kink. And one of the things that's like, not like the big deal as part of the story, but it's something that kind of came up a lot that I sort of noticed was like relationship sustainability and like building sustainable relationships. Because especially like if you are in the part of the BDSM world where polyamory is more common and more part of the expectation, you do see a lot of people that say, oh, I'm a dom and I have like 3 submissives, I have 7 partners, I have this, I have that. And it like on a bare basic level, to me, it kind of reads as being like a collector mindset. Like, it reads like, I'm trying to get as many submissives as possible. And I feel like sustainability in relationships is not really talked about a lot, either when it comes to BDSM just by itself, and building a BDSM relationship that not only is like hot and interesting, but is also something you can do like over time for a long period of time. But then also in polyamory as well, having relationships, when you have multiple relationships that can all be sustainable, not just, and this is the important part, this is what I want to talk about, not just when things are good, but also, and even especially when they are hard. Oh, I didn't turn on my background lights. Ooh, okay. Well, then this gives me an interesting opportunity for lights. Tell me which lights you want me to use. Do we want rainbow lights? Do we want green and purple? Or do we want like a solid color? It takes me a while to like go through all of them because the remote for the lights don't work. So I have to like go over and like physically change it on the light. So let me know what lights we want. And I was like, something looks different. What is it? What is it that I did differently? And now I know. It was the background lights. I didn't turn those on. So let me know what lights you want. But I was thinking about like building sustainable relationships, because I think when you're newer to BDSM, it's really, really easy. And when you're newer to poly as well, and heaven fucking forbid you're new to both at the same time. Listen, if you're trying to do multiple new poly and BDSM relationships at the same time, my opinion is that's just like not doable. Like, that's just, I'll put that out there for answering that question immediately. If you're like, I am brand new to poly and I have, you know, these people in my life that want to be submissive, this person wants to be my dominant, and how do I do it all at once? I'm like, that just, pick one lane at a time. Like, introducing both together is just, that's a pretty big chunk of a pie. It's like you're putting a whole pie. That's not even taking off more than you can chew. That's unhinging your jaw and shoving a whole pie in your mouth. I don't know why I made that analogy, but I guess we're going with it. Okay, let's see what the lights say. Oh, okay. Blue and red, purple, rainbow, 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 solid green, green and purple, rainbow, 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 rainbow. Okay. Not plain blue does weird things to my eyes. Yeah, I'm not really a blue person. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. Like, blue is probably the least common makeup color that I use. I don't know why. I just like, if I'm gonna do purple, I'm just gonna do purple. Like, I'm not gonna do blue. You know, I feel like they're too similar. Strobe UV. I do not, unfortunately, have strobe lights. I cannot turn this into a rave. That would be funny though. Okay, so I feel like rainbow is the winner. So give me a second. I'm gonna go do that. So rainbow lights it is. As someone who made the mistake of trying to begin poly and BDSM at the same time, it's a bad idea. Don't follow my footsteps. If you feel comfortable sharing, and you don't have to, just sort of to kind of go on that conversation, because I have my own ideas about this. What about it was specifically a bad idea? Because in my brain, one thing I think of is like emotional bandwidth, and like how much emotional energy is eaten by starting both of those things together at the same time. Anyways. Light time. Woo! All right. Lights are on. I'm gonna move closer. All right. There we go. Now it's like a full professional live stream time. I can never get blue or purple eyeshadow to work for me. To be fair, purple eyeshadow is hard to formulate if you're like thinking about how hard it is to make something. So it could literally just be the eyeshadow is bad quality. What? It just is making me look like I have huge dark circles, which to be fair, I might, because yesterday's sleeping was crazy. I had like, this doesn't normally happen to me. I'm normally a pretty solid sleeper, but I woke up at like, I think exactly 6 o'clock this morning, and then couldn't go back to sleep for 2 hours. Like, I was up until at least 8:30, and then I fell back asleep again. And that never happens to me. Like, I wake up sometimes in the night, but I can always fall back asleep again. This was like almost like a restless leg thing. Like, I don't know. So strange. We're just gonna leave it like that, and just, you aren't here to look at my beautiful face. You're here to listen to my smart, big brain words. I just found out about something SA related in my family, and my mom said that it wasn't the person's fault because they didn't know any better. How do you discuss that it's still not okay? Oh, Rachel, that's definitely, like, I mean, like, family therapy is expensive, but it is definitely a good idea for navigating that. I feel like, especially if you're dealing with, like, a parent generation and older, there is, especially if it's something involving, like, a preteen or a teenager doing something to, like, a younger sibling or younger family member, there can certainly be sort of this, like, absolution of guilt and be like, oh, well, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't really understand. And, like, okay, but what they still did was wrong. Like, it still caused the other person harm. And I think you can show empathy, because oftentimes when those situations do happen, like if it is like, you know, an 11-year-old doing something to a younger sibling, like usually it means that, well, I shouldn't say usually, I'm not an expert in this, but like oftentimes that can mean that the person doing the perpetrating is experiencing something themselves that they don't know how else to deal with, or it got done to them at a young age and so they don't realize it's wrong. You can both like understand that like what their action was wrong, but that also like there is still capacity for like forgiveness, but that forgiveness is not like up to your mom. Like it's up to the not the other family members, it's up to the victim and the person who experienced whatever it was that was SA related. Like the rest of the family doesn't get to litigate whether or not like this person is like forgiven by the, you know, family as a collective, right? So like that's a really, really hard discussion, and I don't know what your family dynamics are like and like how easy it is to have conversations like that, because some families are like very open to like new ideas, and sometimes it's very insular, like the family's the family, family protects family, don't speak bad about the family, and like having any kind of disagreement or putting blame on anyone is just like not doable. So that's a really complicated situation, and you totally have my empathy for attempting to have to try and deal with that, and it's great that you want to try and have that discussion. But yeah, I think just maybe tackling it from the angle of like, a lot of people think that if you like if you say that somebody did something wrong, that you're saying that they're like inherently bad and can never change and all these other like things that go along with that thought, and it doesn't have to mean that. So I think it's worth having a conversation about like, hey, you can acknowledge that something they did was wrong and not just absolve them of any wrongdoing because it wasn't their fault. I'm like, more complicated than that. Anything involving SA is complicated. Shocker, I know. Specifically, it was just too much for me to do at once, being someone who has limited motivation and energy in the first place. A few years of both have kind of created a balance, but it's still hard sometimes. At first, I was just struggling to discover myself, so polyamory came first, and then BDSM and trying to find myself. Oh, this is a very familiar story. And in finding new partners other than my primary, I was drawn to people who were open about being interested in kinky stuff because it intrigued me. It just kind of took a long time of breaks and mental duress to figure out what best fit my schedule and mental energy. Obviously, not the same thing for everyone, but being a newbie at two things rather than just at one aspect made it a whole lot harder to find my balance. Yeah, okay. That totally is in line with what I was thinking for like finding what will actually work for you. Also, I have bubble tea, so I have like jelly from the bubble tea, FYI. There is definitely this like balancing act you have to do where you're just starting from like, you know, a vanilla life, a primary partner, you know, monogamy, all that good stuff, and then you're adding in, oh, let's have more partners. And I don't know if your primary partner is also poly or if they're mono. It's like a mono poly thing, doesn't really matter. But like then you're adding in new partners, and that's like a whole new energy balance, like texting and physical availability, emotional availability, like where you spend your time, like, because also like different relationships need different amounts of contact. Like some people are very much like, I just want to hear from you like once every couple of days. Other people like need constant all the time texting. Like the most confusing that the thing I will never understand that this person was able to do this is I know someone that literally was talking to like 5 people at the same time, and they texted all day. And they were like, they had like a full-time, like regular ass job. Like I was like, how do you just like sit and just like you get home and you're just like texting and you're like, from fucking the time you get home from work to the time you go to sleep, you're just always on your phone? Because like, how do you like talk that much to that many people at once? Like if it's a group chat, I kind of get it, but when it's like 5 individual people where you're like, you always reply in like a minute, totally not understandable to my very introverted brain. Very, very introverted brain. But getting kind of more back into that balancing act of like, you know, you gotta like, it's like adding ingredients to a soup. Okay, this is about to be a very messy analogy because I'm creating it on the fly. But the way that I think about it is like, okay, you're making a soup and you have a nice soup stock and you're like, I got a really nice, awesome vegetable soup, and I did my like onions and celery and carrots with the butter, and I did that and I sauteed it and I added that to the soup. Okay, that's good. That's like your base like vanilla mono relationship of like making a soup. And you're like, you know what? You know what I want to add to this? I want to give this a nice kind of, I don't know, what's like a regional cuisine that oftentimes involves soup. I want to add a nice Italian flavor to this soup. I decided I'm going to make this an Italian soup. So what I'm going to do, and I don't know, I don't know anything about Italian cooking. What do Italians add to soup? I don't know, like, it's like, so, anyways, like you try to add something else to the soup. You gotta like taste it as you go. You can't just be like, all right, I got a soup, I'm gonna add shrimp heads and peanut butter sauce and salt and pepper and togarashi spice and egg noodles and like you can't just like throw all that shit together, never taste it and be like, this is gonna be an awesome soup, and then eat the soup. Like you gotta taste as you go and find what works together, as opposed to being like, I love all these things. I want every ingredient that I love to be in the soup, and I love peanut sauce, that's going in the soup, and I love shrimp, so that's going in the soup, and I love meatballs, so that's going in the soup. And like, it doesn't work. You can't have everything you love in the same soup. It's not possible. Even though in polyamory we get more tools to add more things because we learn more like techniques for that time management and everything, you can't have everything all at once. Sometimes you gotta say no to the peanut sauce, and you can't put it in the soup because peanut sauce doesn't belong in the soup, okay? It doesn't. I'm sure, like, if you're doing some kind of, like, Thai soup, there's probably something with a peanut base at some point, but not in a regular-ass vegetable broth, okay? Just not feasible. And so when you're adding, like, a bunch of new ingredients at once, like, you don't know, okay, does this need more acid? Does this need more salt, more sugar, more spice? Like, you don't know. And then by the time you've added everything to the pot, like, it becomes so much harder to tell what it is that'll, like, make this thing sustainable. Or if it even is, because when you add all that stuff together, and you're thinking, okay, like, you can't take, like, it's harder to take stuff out of the soup. Like, you can pick out the shrimp heads, you can pick out the potatoes, but then, like, it's already kind of tainted the flavor of the base of the soup, you know? Anyways, this is a really complicated analogy about soup, but I think that analogies make things easier to understand. So I feel like it's easier to, like, start off very basic, test taste as you go, and then just, like, adding those things together. Of course, like, that's an ideal world, right? A lot of people, like, they end up just somehow finding a bunch of relationships that work at once, and they just fucking try to make it work. And sometimes it does, and it does take a while to find that balance, and the people involved are, like, willing to take the time to find that balance. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you just, like, that it is impossible to balance all of that, because, like, you can add more and more and more and more, and it doesn't solve the base issue, you know? Like, what can happen is, like, you try to think about it as, like, a math equation where if you can balance the variables, you can figure out, like, what the solution is. And sometimes it's not solvable. Sometimes you can't actually do that because you've added on too much stuff. And sometimes the solution isn't just, like, I'm not going to have any weekend nights to myself. Because this gets into the territory of, like, part of balancing and making a sustainable relationship that people forget about is you. If your equation does not involve your needs in it, you fucking miswrote the equation. No credit. Rewrite it. Repeat your math class, okay? You gotta include yourself in that equation of sustainability, because if you don't do that, like, you're not actually solving the problem with the variables that it needs to have in order to give a correct answer, right? So if you're doing this and you're thinking, okay, well, like I can make this, I can see 6 people at once, and I can spend, you know, a week, I can spend one weeknight with like all of them, and then like a Saturday with one of them, and then like, you know, and I can spend the night at one person's house every week, and so like every 6 weeks somebody will get an overnight stay with me on the Saturday into the Sunday, and then but I can, and they all live in different places, but like I can drive, I don't mind driving, so I can drive everywhere that I need to drive to, and like, you know, they all have different work schedules, but like I can just be up for 24 hours a day to make sure I can text everyone to make sure everyone's doing all right. I can do all of that, and then, you know, if anyone happens to get sick or loses a job or goes through a breakup or has an emotional crisis or loses a family member or whatever, like we'll just have to figure that out as it goes. And like you can't, like, if your relationships are on a shoestring in the best of times when there is not a crisis happening, they are not going to be fucking sustainable when things get bad. And this is like, people only plan for the best case scenario when everyone is happy and healthy and is getting their needs met, and it can all be like lovey-dovey. Most of the time when you're dealing with that many people with complicated emotional needs and complicated lives, somebody's gonna be going through something, like probably at least once a month. That's just, it doesn't have to be about you. It doesn't have to be like relationship, panic, jealousy stuff. It could be, again, somebody losing a job, a sick family member, somebody like, you know, going through a custody battle with an ex. Like, it could be a lot of stuff that all happens, and that can make the perfect model of how a relationship can work and not work. And kind of bringing this back away from poly and into BDSM, like this totally happens with BDSM as well. Like when you're coming up with rules and structure and a dynamic, people like don't build in flexibility to their dynamics and to their contracts, especially, which is, I think, the worst place to not have flexibilities, because it's like a piece of paper you've promised to follow. But then if you don't have any contingencies, like instead of being flexible, you know, it just breaks instead. You got to build something that has sustainability to it when you're making a contract, especially. Because again, if you're only planning for the good times where you're like, oh yeah, you know, where the way that we've written our contract is like, you're always going to be working 40 hours a week, and you're not going to be dealing with like long weekend nights, doing extra hours at your company and dealing with crunch. You're, you know, always going to have a job. You are always going to live kind of this distance from me. You know, you're kind of counting on a lot of things to just stay the same, when, especially with everything going on in the world and everything that has been going on for several years, like we should know by this point that things don't stay in perfect equilibrium, and our lives have to have a degree of flexibility to them. Otherwise, the relationships end up breaking down. Because, like, for example, you might, in your perfect domly domness, might think that you can sustain a BDSM relationship where, like, you have to do, like, 5 to 6 check-ins with your submissive partner every day to make sure they're drinking water and doing their meditation in the morning and saying their mantra, and, you know, they're checking their underwear for them and approving their outfits and, you know, blah, 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 all that stuff. Okay, well, like, can you do that when your boss is breathing down your neck for a deadline, and you're technically not supposed to have your phone on in the office, and also you've got other thing going on in your life that's kind of like more like, you know, important than this maybe, perhaps, or like maybe your partner gets really sick and then they can't necessarily do the things that they're being asked to do, so like, do you punish them for that? Like, you gotta think of those eventualities when you're coming up with stuff, and a lot of people don't. And then their relationships fall apart. And the worst part about this is when people are in fucking denial about, oh, I could totally do this. No, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up. I am here to tell you, I'm so mad about this right now because I'm tired of seeing people's relationships implode because people are overstretching themselves, overstretching their relationships, and instead of having something that is on a smaller scale and more sustainable, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to have everything they want all at once in exactly the way they want it, and aren't willing to compromise with life, essentially, in order to make something that will actually work. Like, you gotta be able to be like, I really, like, this is our goal of what we want to be able to do. Or even just figuring out, like, maybe we can do this level on the weekends. Or maybe we can do this during the summer months when, like, you know, your workload is less intense. But maybe we can't do it during this. Or even just being able to be open to that renegotiation process, so when you are going through something that's really intense, you can make changes so that way you can keep having a relationship. Because I would personally, like, if it was me and I was making these decisions, I would way rather have a smaller scale relationship did not have a relationship at all because we were shooting for the moon and then fucking fell into a black hole and then got teleported to the other side of the galaxy, right, and got separated from each other. Like something smaller scale is okay. And this is, I think, feeds into a little, or is fed in from expectations we have about DS relationships in the BDSM community, where it's like, unless you're doing it at this level, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's like, oh, like, you are only doing DS on the weekends, like, that you're not a real BDSM person then. It's like, wait, what? No, what the fuck? Okay, I think the thing I thought needed to be gotten to is gotten to. Excellent. Okay, great. Where was my brain? Oh, I'm working on a video right now about brats that I think will be really fun that people will enjoy. Okay, YouTube's giving me weird numbers for stuff right now, and I'm trying to make sure my stream is actually, like, operating correctly. Okay. There we go. We're good. Okay. It was like your stream, red zone terror. Okay. I think we're good though. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you can't hear me or I'm frozen, well, I guess you won't hear that in the latter case, but let me know, I guess. So it's like you I think I was talking about, like, oh, like, higher level BDSM relationships. Like, people feel like in order to have a BDSM relationship that works, that's, like, worth having, it's like, oh, well, like, if you're not doing it at this level and you're not shaving her head and her eyebrows and giving her a slave barcode tattoo, like, you're not really doing BDSM, and it's, like, not worth it, and why should you even try? Like, people just think that they shouldn't do. It's like, if either you do it all the way or you don't do it at all, and it's not worth it, or you're not a real whatever. And that's just so silly. Because most people, you know, here's a big secret. If you run into people on social media that are trying to tell you, oh, well, you know, real DS looks like this, chances are whatever it is that they're showing you in their TikToks, their FetLife, their whatever, doesn't really actually look like that most of the time. It probably mostly looks like that, like, 1 or 2 nights of the week, and then a lower level thing the other nights of the week, because most people have, like, stressful jobs and life, and COVID is still happening, and whatever else, you know? It might be, like, that really, really high level for, you know, maybe a couple months, maybe even a year or two, but, like, eventually things start to fall into kind of a more natural pattern, you know? Anyways. Hey, and oh, there we go.
$10. Hey, any advice on how to deal with the fear of I'll never get to experience X with anybody, related to the fear of not meeting anybody?
Okay. I think this is a really good question because I know that a lot of people go through this. Especially when you are in a smaller area of the country, maybe, or you're in, like, a small town. It can definitely feel very isolating, like you're never going to meet anyone. I did a review of a dating app called Field, which, depending on where you live, I think could be better or worse for BDSM. It's mostly for people that are in open relationships. But you are never going to get your needs met if you don't ever try to get your needs met. And if something that you really want to do is have an experience, well, first of all, if you're a bottom and the thing you want to experience is a particular type of BDSM play, you can always just hire a pro dom. I know people think they seem really intimidating and they must be super expensive, and, like, there is a flavor of dom out there for anyone. There's the super hardcore, like the Daddy on Lee types of the world. We stand Daddy on Lee in this YouTube channel. There's, like, people like Daddy on Lee who do, like, really, really hardcore, like, BDSM stuff, or like Lady V. Like, there are definitely or is it Lady Vi? I actually don't know. But, like, there are definitely people who are on the far end of the spectrum that can give you very detailed, very intense experiences that maybe it would actually take you a really long time to find a partner to build up to that point with. And what you want to do is just, like, see what it feels like. And then there's also ones that are kind of more like the Justine Crosses of the world and some other doms as well, where it's, like, maybe a little bit more of a gentle introduction, or like a mommy dom experience. I'm not saying that she's a mommy dom, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a spectrum of experiences you can get from a pro dom. So if what you're looking for is just to try BDSM, you can do that. There's even, oh, it's more rare, there are pro submissives and, like, pro switches that will also allow you to know what it feels like to tie someone up or beat someone with a flogger or whatever. Like, there are ways to get that. If it just like is what you're looking for is only that. But what if you want a relationship, right? What if what you want is like an actual like longer term connection and not just like, I get to try this thing once. You got to get out there. You got to do it. And like that, I think the best way to confront the fear that you'll never get to experience something is knowing that you're trying to work towards getting that experience happening, right? That could be educating yourself, that could be reading books, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, taking online classes, like preparing yourself for that experience. It could be being on kinky social media like FetLife, or being on dating apps and looking for other kinky people on them, like on Field or OkCupid. It could be going to virtual munches or finding a BDSM Discord chat and meeting like-minded people. If you are working towards that goal in some small way, I think that's an easier way to actually be able to say, well, I'm working towards that happening, so I'm not going to worry. And this is like easier said than done, obviously. It's very simplified. But if you can say, hey, like, I don't have to worry about this being done because I know that I'm working towards it, and when the time is right, it'll happen. It's Field. It's F-E-E-L-D. I actually did a review on it a couple videos back if you want to watch that. If you need to go to a different pro submissive, is that a substitute? Like a substitute teacher? Maybe. So, that is my rant on sustainability. I'm going to answer some questions, maybe related to sustainability, maybe about bratting. I don't know. Ooh, hello from French Canada. Hopefully you are doing well, French Canada. You've had some hard times over there recently. Is it snowing? Is there snow on the ground still, even though it's March? I'm actually kind of sad. Like, March happened really fast. And there was definitely a winter because I had snow over Christmas. I had snow in January. I feel like I got to experience winter. And I'm not normally sad about winter being over. I'm just like, oh, it is going to be like, it's going to be like 2 more months of like solid, just like kind of crappy weather. But the fact that it's already going to be summer again really soon is like kind of blowing my mind a little bit, TBH. Just wanted to say thank you for all the information. You are my go-to for research. Oh, thank you, Tina. I am glad to be helpful. Yeah, I always hear about Fur Bandit. Yes. Oh, it's her birthday. It was her birthday on March 1st. So if you want to say happy birthday to Bandit, she'd appreciate it. She unfortunately got sick the day after her birthday, and so she's been on like a bland food diet. But I don't think she actually minds too much. I think she likes having boiled chicken. Oh, we got a super chat from Chris Kiki. So glad I found your videos. Thank you for all you share and explain. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I love making YouTube videos, like genuinely. I'm not always a fan of filming them. Sometimes filming can be kind of stressful. But the actual, like, I'm in the middle of editing a video right now, and I love that process. I love the research. I love the writing. I love sharing information because, like, this is definitely very much still an underground thing. And, like, I know a lot of people that just, like, just sometimes I interact with people that are brand new to the BDSM world, and I'm like, wow, there is so much to explain. Oh my goodness, sometimes I forget that there's like I had someone comment on a video earlier today that said, hey, I talked about aftercare in a video, and they said, hey, do you have a video defining aftercare? Because in that video, I just sort of took it for granted that people knew what it was, because I can only, if I had to stop every video and define every term, every video would be an hour long. Nobody wants that. But I just thought that was interesting, like when you stop and think about it, like how much there is to know. Like, what is the difference between a dom and a top? Oh, I have a question. So, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and I feel like this pops up on like the BDSM like subreddit r/BDSM community a fair amount as well. And this isn't something I've really heard a lot since, like it used to be a really, really hot conversation topic, and it's less so now. But on Instagram, like especially when like pet play was really big on Instagram before it got bought by Facebook and like they shut a lot of that down. Like people that are pet players using the term master, because I want to say this maybe started with Scream Kiwi. I think in one of her old videos, it's been deleted for a really long time. I think she had a partner in high school that she called master, and that's how a lot of people found kitten play. So I think a lot of people were like, oh, that sounds fun. how do you guys feel about like people using the term master to not refer to a master slave dynamic or like a higher level like total power exchange dynamic? Because I've heard very conflicting opinions about this over the years, and I'm not really sure. And of course, I'm surveying my own community, so the results are going to be biased. But I kind of want to feel like, do people like, are people okay with that? Do people think it's like confusing, inappropriate? Like, what do you think? I'm kind of on the side of like, I think you can use the term because master is sort of like a hot term for people, but you have to be really careful about how you define it and know that when you say that term or use it on like FetLife, people are going to make assumptions about what that means, and you have to be prepared to maybe correct those assumptions or like just be willing to have a conversation about it, basically. Because it, like, for the real life community, it certainly has very particular connotations, you know? Funny to say, I actually got into BDSM through polyamory. I think a lot of people do, actually. I think a lot of people find poly through BDSM. A lot of people find BDSM through poly. Totally happens both ways. It's one of those things where when you're in an alternative community that's based around like relationships with other human beings, you're more likely to be alternative in other additional ways. Like, you're more likely to identify as queer. You're more likely to have like diverse gender expression, shall we say. I'm not sure what the best term for that is. You're more likely to be into kink or BDSM, more likely to be into poly. And actually, I feel like it can actually be an issue because sometimes I've known people that are in the poly community that just want to be vanilla, just want like, all they want is traditional, regular vanilla PIV intercourse, and that's the only thing on the menu for them. And actually finding someone that only really wants or expects that can be difficult because of those levels of overlap, you know? All right, I'm at the part where we were debating what lighting I should have in the background. Mr. Beansman. I think I should do the voice.
Mr. Beansman
There we go.
donated $5. Do you have any advice for getting started with ballet boot training while I wait for my pair to be made and shipped?
Oh, totally. I have so much advice for this. So, literally, you can look up. What you want to do is you got to have strong ankles. Got to have strong ankles. And I'm assuming you want to be able to stand up in them. My goodness, honey, are we all right? We've been doing a lot of honking. We seem fine. Okay. So ballet heels. Core thing you want to have is strong ankle and like strong ankle support, because that's how like people hurt themselves in those boots a lot, is not having proper ankle support. And if you look up like ballet like point training, you can totally find videos for this, but you can get like just some really simple like $10 resistance bands on Amazon, and you can do ankle extension and like flexion. Oh, actually, you know what? Give me a second. I think I have a book that shows this. Alright, this is completely unrelated to this subject, but this is my strength and conditioning for pole dance book. And I believe there's a section in here on ankle stuff. Let's see, legs, wrists and grip, ankles, core strength. Give me a second. This is a really good book, by the way. If you're into pole dance, either if you're a stripper or if you do it for sport, like, it is a really, really, really good advice for improving stuff and also strengthening and not hurting yourself. So, also good for like people who lift as well. Actually, there's a lot of stuff in lifting. Where is the ankle stuff? I know there's ankle stuff in here because there's things for point work. For like being able to point your foot. This is all just like, hey, if you want to do a meat hook, here's how to strengthen your body for a meat hook. Oh, I hit myself on the face with that. Chopper. Iguana deadlift. Basic macro. Here we go. Found it. So this is the foot section. There's a whole section for feet. So there's like, you can get a foam roller and you can foam roll on your calves. You can do calf stretches. There's also this penny drill, which if you Google, you can probably find information on that. And then this is the thing I was talking about, was this like resisted toe point thing. Like, look for exercises that are like this resisted toe point. There's like 3 or 4 of them that you can do, and that helps strengthen your ankle support, and then also helps your foot be in that like pointed position that it needs to be in to be able to fit into the boot. And then there's this is the other thing, which is the resisted dorsiflexion. So you don't want to like overtrain in one direction. So this is like good for like strengthening your ankle and like opposite of the pointed position, basically. My goodness, honey. Anyways, that's that. That's my toe point advice for feet. That was what I would do. I actually used to do ballet boot training. I did that for like a year and a half or so. I don't own ballet boots anymore, so I haven't had to use them in a very long time. I guess what I would say as well is, do not wear them alone and intend to walk around in them without somebody to supervise you, because they are very easy to fall in. Just really focus on like getting up that ankle strength, and just like be on some carpet, have someone there to support you, have a chair, and just work on standing up in them, because you think they wouldn't be that difficult, but they definitely are. Are you trying to be a pole dancer? I did pole dance for over a year before COVID hit, and I stopped going because the studio I was going to was closed down for a long time, and then they increased their prices for the monthly cost of going to the studio for a long time, and like maybe I'll go back to doing it eventually, but it's been a hot minute. I would suggest you actually take an actual ballet class. I did ballet point for years. I don't think I could walk in those shoes. Oh, yeah. Like, it's definitely a unique skill compared to being in ballet. But also, like, ballet classes are definitely, like, expensive. And I wouldn't necessarily assume that somebody can, like, afford to, like, just take ballet classes to be able to eventually learn how to do a particular kink thing, you know? But certainly, that's, like, if that's in your wheelhouse of affordability and time budget, like, ballet classes could be great for sure. So our stream, we have a little bit over an hour left. We normally go until 8, so we have like an hour, like 15 minutes left. I swear to God, if I'm about to get hiccups, I'm gonna lose it. This is not the opportune time to get hiccups. I'm in the middle. We're vibing, okay? All right. Okay, so Steve asked, as a top, I often get asked for pickup play, and I find some of the bottoms I play with become, quote, smitten and want our brand new relationship to go further. How can I politely refuse that request? Well, I think it's great, Steve, that you were thinking about how to let people down gently, because a lot of people are just like, fuck off, or they ghost someone, or they don't text back or whatever. So I think that's great you're thinking about that. I think the best thing you can do is like be upfront when you're negotiating for pickup play that you're not looking for a relationship. You are, and that's also like, I'm assuming what's happening is like you do pickup play, and then right afterwards, like within like, let's say like 2 to 3 days of the play, the person's like, oh my gosh, like I totally want to do more stuff with you. And like that's when the spin stuff happens, is kind of when they're still in that like immediate post scene energy. Well, I don't know what to call it. Like, right after you do a scene and like the feelings are still really feelings, big feelings. That for sure. So I think being upfront when you're doing the negotiation about like, this is just for pickup play. I'm not looking for a new relationship. I'm not available for that. So if you could agree to that, that's great. We can play together. But if you're looking for something deeper, I'm not able to provide that, just to make sure there's no confusion and there's no sort of like, well, you said this or I assumed this. Like, just make it really, really clear up front to just avoid any of that messiness, or avoid a lot of it anyways. But as far as like politely refusing, let's see. Let me put myself in your shoes for a second. I'm a top. I don't want to have a relationship with someone. Somebody after a scene is like, oh my gosh, I want to do more of this. I want to have a relationship. I would probably say something like, I am so flattered that you want to have a deeper relationship with me. And I think it's great that you're kind of maybe discovering, they're newer. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm really happy you're kind of discovering more of what you want out of a BDSM relationship. Unfortunately, though, that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm not really available for something like that right now, and I really enjoy doing pickup play with you, but I'm not necessarily ready for a full relationship, and that's not what I'm looking for. It's not because of you. It's not because you did something wrong, or not because I don't like you or something. It's just because of like what I'm available for and what I'm looking for, you know? Like, just make it about yourself as much as possible and about like what you want, as opposed to something with them. Because I'm assuming what's going on is like you aren't available for like deeper relationships, and you're just doing pickup play because what you want is pickup play and not something deeper. So I would just like frame it around you and your needs, and like not make it about them and something with them or you being wrong, right? Or not being compatible in some way. And you know, I wouldn't necessarily say this to the person, but I would keep this in mind sort of in your own, you know, brain catalog, is that especially if it's a newer person and you're doing BDSM together for the first couple times, like that produces a lot of really intense feelings, especially of bonding, that a lot of people don't. Is that why they named the show Bonding? Anyways, when you are first playing together, like that's a lot of really intense emotion, and people that aren't used to dealing with like and can recognize, you know, the ebbs and flows of the energy of a scene and coming down from that, like it's very easy to mistake like your brain is really good at connecting pleasure with the source of the pleasure. And so if you feel really great after a BDSM scene, of course your brain's going to be like, we need more of that. And the thing that we got came from this person, so we really like this person now. And so you end up with a scenario where your brain's like really, really drawn to and is like driving you to go towards that person that was the source of the pleasure you got. But that's not like genuine attraction. That's your brain dopamine seeking, and the dopamine is coming from a person that you played with once. And also just like the confusion that is your brain trying to regulate your brain chemicals after, you know, maybe going through subspace or something else. So just like recognizing that can definitely happen, where like, you know, when I talk about this, I have a video where I talk about like catching feelings in BDSM, and you have to recognize like if it is a genuine desire for a relationship, it'll last longer than like 72 hours. Like that's sort of my test. If you are getting intense feelings of wanting to be with someone and develop a relationship with them, but it goes away after a week or like 3 days, that was your brain chemicals fucking you up, okay? That was your brain chemicals. As opposed to like being around someone a lot and developing a friendship and playing with them, and then like having a consistent feeling of wanting a deeper relationship with them, as opposed to just like, oh my god, the feelings, the dopamine, give me the dopamine, oh my gosh, you know? That's what I would think about. And people don't know that. Like, people underestimate it. They think BDSM is just like this temporary thing where when it's over, it's over. And like, I mean, you listen, okay? Safe words do not stop the chemicals in your brain. Remember that, okay? Once those wheels are already turning, it takes a while for your brain to catch up with the new information that tells it to stop producing these things and stop this and pause this and bring this back. And like you can stop a scene immediately, and those brain chemicals are still going. So just remember that. Just safe words do not stop feelings. What you're saying is we're basically like cats going after the person that feeds us. I mean, more or less. I mean, that kind of explains Brad's, right? Like when like cats, like they meow for their tinned cat food to be opened, and then they like refuse it once the tin is open because what they got out of it. Well, maybe this isn't a Brad thing, but you know what I mean, right? Maybe this is more of like a bratty top thing where they're like meow 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 meow, and they really want the can to be open, and then the can gets open, and they're like, "Thank you, human. Goodbye." And then they waltz off to go fuck off somewhere else and stare at birds in the window, and they don't actually want the food. But they did get off on the power trip of making you open the can. That's what it's really all about. Cats. Listen, that's the only true topping from the bottom I will accept. I do not want to ever accuse anyone of topping from the bottom, because I think it can be a really mean term and used in negative ways. Cats? Cats? Oh, they top from the bottom. They top from the bottom. They're like meow 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 meow, and then you pay attention to them, and they run away. What? No. Cats are so confusing to me. I'm gonna be honest. I like cats. I don't have a problem with cats. Some of my best friends are cats. No. I do know actually lots of kitten players in the community, but seriously, I don't really understand cat behavior, and so it is a mystery to me as doggo. I would love it if safe words could work on feelings, to be honest. Oh, me too. I would love it if I could just safe word my brain into not feeling something anymore. Wouldn't that be great if you could just like safe word your brain and be like, okay, brain, red? We're not thinking that anymore. I said red. Stop it. Stop the feelings. No. Brain, stop. Red. I would love it if I could do that, but unfortunately we've not yet developed such technology. One day, when we all have brain chips in our brains, we will be able to voice command our emotions, I'm sure. Oh, okay, good one. I think a dom can have multiple submissives is possible. However, submissives dating each other and the dom would be unsuccessful. It's controversial, but I wonder if you could be with a great dom with sub. Okay, I feel like that got like compressed at the end, probably because of the text element. I think a dom can have multiple submissives is possible. It's dating each other and the dom would be unsuccessful. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying the submissives dating each other, but then also dating the dom, as opposed to the dom dating the submissives, but them not dating each other. Like the difference between like a polycule and like the triad situation. You know, I don't have any data about the relative sustainability of each of those relationship styles. My intuitive belief is that you could have a sustainable relationship where the submissives are dating each other, and also the dom, and that could be successful, but you would have to be very, very, very clear about how the dating relationships affect the DS relationships. Because I think if the submissives were dom each other, like then it gets really, really complicated really fast. Where if it's like, if those connections are just romantic and sexual, but the only power exchange relationship is that there's one dom with like subs that are not like, if it's like a hierarchy thing, it gets really fucking messy, really complicated, where it's like you've got dom and then sub A, B, C, and D, as opposed to A, B, C, and D. Do you see the difference there? Like, if you have a rank order of, like, hierarchical subs, where you got, like, the A alpha sub, and then the beta sub, and the omega, and the zeta, whatever, got that shit going on, where it's, like, more competitive to, like, get the dom's attention in time by being a good enough submissive. Oh, that shit gets super fucking toxic real quick, let me tell you. But when it's, like, when it's you just happen to all be submissive to the same dom, but you're on the same level as each other, then I think it's more egalitarian, and that dating dynamic gets like easier to manage, as opposed to when it's like A, B, C, D, and then you've got like dating within that, like then it gets like more messy and competitive. And I'm not saying you can't have hierarchical BDSM or hierarchical like poly, just that it's like, because of the way that a lot of submissives are, even poly submissives are, like, there is a huge fucking problem, especially amongst newer submissives that are trying to impress a dom. They get very competitive. They're like, look at, I can bruise more easily, I can do longer scenes, I can do this with the whip, I love it when he puts fucking 5 gauge whatever needles in my arm. Like, they try to outdo each other constantly with the level of their submission and how intense they can play and how masochistic they are. And if the submissives in a relationship are doing that with each other, like, it's bad enough when it happens in the community and like submissive groups end up devolving into like competitions of who can have the most bruised ass. Like, imagine how much worse that is in a poly relationship. Like, that's just like, anytime you are dealing with comparison, like the saying is like, comparison is the thief of joy, right? when you're adding in more axes to like cause comparison and competition, especially when it's like, I have to do this to get my partner's fucking attention, like, and get the same amount of like love and respect and whatever as these other submissives in the relationship are getting, like, oh my god. No. Like, but you can have a dynamic where it's like Dom and then like alpha submissive in the like leather sense of like they're sort of more of the head of the household sort of a role, and then they have submissive that kind of help manage or mentor. Like, you can have that, but you have to be really careful about like, we don't fucking do competitive shit here. If you do competitive shit on purpose, you will get a demerit. You will go in timeout. You will get a real punishment, one that you don't like. Just don't do the stuff where you're like, well, I can do this thing. I can do this. I can do... Just no. Stop it. Bad. No. Because there's always going to be someone that can out-submissive you. There's definitely people that can out-dom each other as well, but it tends to be less competitive, especially because doms tend to be, like, loners. But it, like, a lot of people get super competitive with other submissives, and like it just ends up devolving into like the arms race of submission, where suddenly you're shaving off your eyebrows and tattooing things on your body and putting needles in places, and it's like, whoa, are you doing this because you like it or because you want to be able to brag about it to your friends / vet life / like prove how submissive you are, you know? I question things. Is monogamy more or less taboo in the BDSM culture? I also wonder how long that will last in the try to find if you like it mentality. The vast majority of people that do BDSM are monogamous. You have to remember that most people only ever do BDSM within a monogamous relationship in the bedroom. If you're in the BDSM community and going to community events, because it involves being around other human beings having sex and being naked and having their genitals out, most people that are really strictly monogamous are not comfortable in that kind of environment. Like, because, like, you think about it, like, strict monogamy involves, like, the concept of emotional cheating, where it's like, if you have a friend of the gender you're attracted to, that could be considered cheating. Looking at pornography is considered cheating. Finding the waitress attractive is considered cheating. Like, if you're that level of extreme monogamy, like, being in the BDSM culture is not going to work for you. But the vast majority of people who ever do BDSM are going to be monogamous. But I would say, I think in the surveys I've seen, it's like a quarter or something of people in the BDSM community are poly. But most people aren't. Most people are not. It just seems that way. Maybe because I talk about poly and BDSM, I like warp that perspective, but it's certainly not that way. Good question. Tina asked, what do you feel would be a good way to try and help my daughter explain to other family members that she is asexual? She has tried with no luck. When she told me, I talked with my dom and he was okay. So I added us to her, which helped her out knowing that someone else understood. Oh, okay. I see. Gotcha. I mean, my gut instinct is like, why do family members need to understand if they don't want to? Like, I am not someone that needs like family approval for my relationship or life choices. So, but if your family is really close and your daughter wants to have that acceptness, that's a real Colbert word right there. Acceptness. If your daughter wants to have acceptance and wants to be able to be open, you know, and it might just take time. It might also just be like a time factor of like they need to get used to the idea in their own way. And it's not really about finding the magical combination of words that's going to make them understand. They need to be able to sort of marinate the idea in their own brains and have it introduced to them maybe multiple times through multiple channels to the point where they actually end up like understanding it more. But if it was me and I was trying to explain it, I would simply say that like, I don't experience sexual attraction. If you're expecting grandchildren from me, that's probably not in the cards. Like, I am comfortable living a life without a sexual relationship, basically. That's what it would be. And it's funny because I feel like with ace stuff, like I just have never really felt the need myself personally for that validation, because what you're announcing is like, I don't want to do this kind of thing with anyone, which I feel like is different than a situation where it's like, I want to bring home this person for Christmas or for Thanksgiving, And I need my family members to understand that, like, I'm with someone that's trans, with someone of the same gender, with whatever. And I feel like that is, like, harder to navigate than just, like, I don't experience sexual attraction. Please don't pressure me into having a boyfriend or a girlfriend because I don't really want one. If that's, like, the way your daughter feels about it, of course. I'm just sort of making assumptions. But I think, you know, honestly, like, if it's like, you know, you understand her and, like, the immediate family gets it, I wouldn't stress too much about making sure everyone understands it, you know, because it might also just be something they need to get in their own time, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think taking breaks is a great step. I think sometimes relationships need that. And it can be really scary, like, especially if you're dealing with attachment issues. Some people can just not do breaks. Like, if you're dealing with somebody that has, like, an avoidant attachment pattern, doing a break with them is basically just a breakup. Because during the break, they're going to, like, emotionally withdraw. Or they have to try very, very hard not to. But in most situations, like, you can do a break, and that can be a really great way of, like, evaluating the relationship and taking that time to slow down and be like, is this really what I want? Are we going in the right direction? Do I want to be with this person? Is our relationship at the level that I want it to be at? And that can be in both directions. That could be deciding you want more with the person or deciding you want less and you would rather spend that energy elsewhere. And it, like, I feel this is really mean, but it is valid to want to spend time with people, not even with other people, but spend time on other things besides people. Speaking as an introvert there, sometimes, like, this is part of the sustainability web is, do you have time for your hobbies? Do you have time for activity and exercise? Do you have time to spend with your family members and spend with your pets? Like, a lot of people do their sustainability fucking matrix thing with, like, how can I divide my time amongst my partners? And they forget about work. They forget about family. They forget about their other non-dating friends. They forget about, you know, other non-friend or partner-related hobbies. They forget about exercise. They forget about self-care. They forget about taking a fucking break. Like, they forget about going on vacation. Like, they forget about all that stuff. And then, like, again, the more things you're missing in your equation, the less accurate the equation is going to be. And then you're not actually going to come up with something sustainable. You're going to be on that shoestring, and it's not going to work. I don't know. I feel like there's an article I read actually earlier today that somebody linked me. I'll try to pull it up because I feel like it was really interesting. Oh, let's see if I can find that again. Something that Eve Rickard linked to me. Part of the reason we're talking about this is because I had a tweet that kind of took off in a very minor way amongst the kinky poly part of Twitter. So, okay, here we go. So this is from alliegraves.medium.com, and it's called A Theory of Polyamory Part 3. I'm just gonna, like, I don't really know where to start with this exactly, but I'm gonna start here. So, I'm just gonna start with this. Vaguely, I understood that relationships needed some time and attention, but the narrative we agreed on was that needing attention outside of the prescribed schedule was a character flaw that should be managed by the person with the need. Why did we all settle on this narrative? Well, partly because it was the only one that made the math work. A relationship structure that was stretched so thin was not one that could provide spontaneous support to anyone without a high cost. When I first started going to poly meetups in the early 2000s, I would sometimes hear people sagely say, love is limitless, but time and energy are not. Like it was some hard-fought bit of wisdom and not the most obvious thing in the fucking world. Contemporary poly books will usually give a nod to this. Like, hey, just keep time and energy at limitations in the back of your mind as a possible explanation if your entire life is falling apart. I think it's hard to really put this idea out in front in discussions about poly because then we might have to grapple with the idea that there are a lot of people with jobs, hobbies, friends, and families that might be polysaturated at romantic partners equal 1 or 0. And you, dear poly person, might be one of those people. And I think this is uncomfortable because it violates the promise of poly that you won't have to say no to love anymore. But the thing is, you will have to say no, even if your no is just manifested through neglect, which is an incredibly shitty way to say no. And I think we should talk more about this. One of the most toxic messages in the Game Changer is that somehow we get an ethical pass to bulldoze our existing commitments if we feel romantic love, and that if our existing partners can't accommodate that, then they are the asshole. As the Game Changer in that book, I feel uniquely qualified to call some bullshit on this particular message. Relationships end sometimes. We get to leave for literally any reason, and when we leave relationships, the people we leave get to feel any way they want towards us. It's okay to leave someone because you want your life to look a different way, or, God forbid, you would rather spend your time with someone else or on something else. But dynamically reallocating huge chunks of time and energy for new intense romantic connections just because they are intense romantic connections and thinking no one else would be damaged by this sudden change is dumb. All right. That's the bit from that article. It's a good one. Oh no, I'm sure the part with the soup metaphor. Oh, the struggle of the soup metaphor. Thank you all for bearing with me through that. My partner and I are very open and into kink, but we have a hard time actually going on with power exchange. She's B. Oh, I'm gonna say that she's very into it, but I'm shy. Maybe that's what you meant. What's a good way to get a scene going? Need more info. Maybe. So it sounds like what the problem is, and if this is wrong, let me know, and I'll think about this from a different direction. But it sounds. You said like getting a scene going, but then like you are having trouble with the power exchange. So is it an everyday like having trouble maintaining rules and structure, or is it like we don't have the energy to like get a scene going? But in terms of like getting a scene going and like finding the energy for that, like I think having a separate space or even like separate clothing or separate things like that, like as much separation as you can really from like normal everyday life into like more of a scene space can be a really good way to get into a scene and get into the right mindset for doing it. Like if you have a certain outfit you wear, a certain lingerie, a certain part of the house, certain lighting, getting candles lit, certain music, certain candle burning, like the more senses you can involve in creating a sense of like this is BDSM time, the easier it will be to switch from everyday life into what that space is. So if you can cultivate making a space, it doesn't have to, like if you don't have a spare room in your house, it doesn't have to be that, but having some kind of separation every day. And also just like realize you don't have to like get a full-on scene going. Like it could literally just, I have this like a thing I've talked about in older videos where you can have like mini scenes and like quick scenes, right? Like, you know, maybe you have something in the oven for dinner and you have 10 minutes and you decide to do like a quick spanking over the couch before the stuff's ready in the oven. Like you can do really, really quick stuff like that, and then that can turn into a larger scene if you're comfortable like renegotiating in that circumstance. Or it can just be like, hey, you're both kind of getting your like top side, your bottom side, your whatever side fed, but it doesn't have to be this huge production. Because I think people get like bogged down by the idea that like, oh, well, we want to do BDSM, but then we have to do this, that, and the other. This is kind of like the opposite advice of like creating separation in space. If it's energetically overwhelming to do that, the opposite thing you can do is just like make time for little things, and then that will help you get to a bigger thing. It's kind of a similar idea that I think people probably give advice about when it comes to like relationships that struggle with like both partners want to have sex, but they have trouble making time for sex, is you like build in foreplay throughout the day. And you can do this for BDSM as well, right? Like whether that be texting each other certain things or sending photos or sharing erotica that you like or sharing kind of a sexy, funny post from Twitter. I don't know what the normal sexual people do, but whatever that is, you do that. And you have that little bit of foreplay so that way you kind of know what's in mind for later. You have sort of opened the door to having that conversation. and are sort of getting in the mood for doing that. You can do the same thing with BDSM that you would do with sex, sort of leave that breadcrumb trail, so that way it's easier to get in the mindset of like, we're doing a scene now, we're gonna do this thing now, as opposed to going from like, well, I was thinking about when taxes were due, but I guess I could do a BDSM scene now. Like, you know, if we don't have any preamble whatsoever and then are like, oh, we're gonna do BDSM now, like, that could be quite the mental shift, especially depending on what you're doing. But it's also okay, like, you don't have to have it be a big production. If what you want to do is like 5 minutes of playing fetch and getting a little bit of pet play time in, because that's what you have energy for right now, like, that's fine. Again, this is about having flexibility and not just thinking you have to go big or go home and you have to do this thing. You could also just do stuff over text message, right? Like, if you're into like online role play stuff, if you're into, I think the kids call it ERP now. That's what they call it. They call it erotic role play. That was not what we called it. We just called it role play back in my day. I don't know. But you know, you can do stuff like that, you know? Anyways, that's my 2 cents on that. But definitely, if you feel like you want to give me more info and we can get into a more like detailed answer, we can definitely do that. So this is from, my choker is from the Kitten Collection. They are on Etsy. They've been around for a very long time. This is from Biothane. Wonderful, waterproof, vegan material. I love it. It's so comfortable, and they do really great work, and I would definitely recommend the Kitten Collection. And I have a video actually reviewing this and another collar that I don't wear quite as often because it's purple and doesn't match with a lot of things that I wear / own. But that's what I've got. Okay, the soup analogy apparently worked for at least some people. Okay, I'm glad it helped. Could you talk about anatomy where it is safe to do hickeys and spanking? So hickeys, I'm not really sure there's anywhere that would be dangerous to do a hickey, because what a hickey is, like, the way that you make a hickey is you basically are just like creating suction on the skin. A lot of people think it's the biting that causes a hickey. That's not what happens. It's the same principle that happens with cupping. It's the suction, not the biting. So if it's like, you could do cupping like basically anywhere on the body. Probably wouldn't do it on like the perineum. Probably wouldn't do it there. But otherwise, like, it's kind of like fair game. And maybe like you wouldn't necessarily want to do it in like the hollow of the throat. But otherwise, like, you could, like, if you're not biting down super hard, then it's not an issue. But like, hickeys are about like, it's that like suction and like the pulling up of the skin. Because what you're doing is you're basically like drawing the blood from the capillaries, just under the surface of your skin, and drawing that blood up, to be like on top of the skin. Like, that's how, like, it's not like you're breaking, like, it's not like you're breaking deep veins with your teeth and then the blood from that is happening, because that's a bruise. It's not a hickey, right? I like, as long as you have a firm seal. Don't do hickeys on eyelids. Oh, I didn't even think that people would do that. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even think about, yeah, don't do hickeys on eyelids. I didn't even think about, like, the anatomy of getting your mouth around an eyeball. I didn't consider it. Yeah, probably don't do that. And, like, just be aware of the face in general. Like, if you don't want to have to cover up marks for a couple days afterwards, probably don't do it on the face. Good point about the eyelids. But, like, spanking, also pretty much safe everywhere. Don't go directly on the spine. Don't go directly on the kidneys. Don't spank somebody's throat. But, like, usually people are doing spanking, you're doing it on the outer thighs, the inner thighs, and the butt. And if, you know, going onto the hip bone can be painful. Going onto the pubic bone can be painful. Going onto the stomach, painful. Going on the kidneys, painful. Basically, if it starts to hurt in a bad way, you're probably in the wrong spot. But pretty much anything from the kneecap up. Don't hit the joints. Don't block an airway. Don't punch someone's internal organs. Pretty much good. It's actually harder to hit someone. People have like weird theories about like what is and is not dangerous in BDSM. People are like, handcuffs, totally fine. Don't even want to think about them. But spanking, oh my god, so dangerous. And it's like, I know more people that have been accidentally locked inside handcuffs than I've ever heard of anyone ever being hurt, like, in a permanent damage way by spanking. way more stories of people having to get like an axe grinder to take off handcuffs than or whatever. It's sort of a hyperbolic example, but you know what I mean. Like people getting locked into things, somebody passing out and being stuck in bondage. That happens way more often than anyone ever getting hurt with spanking. Not that it doesn't happen, but it is less likely than you might assume it would be. Oh yeah, sorry, the tailbone. I said hip bone. I should be more clear. Like basically, don't hit bones, don't hit joints, don't hit the internal organs. If it's a good fleshy part of the body with sufficient fat and muscle coverage, you're probably in a good spot. It's hard to like list out all the, like normally if this is a video, I'd put a fucking visual guide on the screen and I'd just say, here, don't hit there, don't hit there, these are the green areas. But really, the answer isn't where is dangerous, it's where is the most safe and pleasurable. And that answer for spanking is the thighs, the inner thighs, and the butt. Because I'm using spanking to mean like open hand hitting, not like implements, not impact play in general, just spanking. My situation is more that I'm struggling to think of something to do / say to get the ball rolling. Like, do you want to be a good girl? Good girls take spanking. That I came to. Oh, that is the struggle. So really quickly, I will get to that, but I will get to the super chat, which says, random, but I melt down aluminum or aluminium and make my own toys. Thoughts? I love metal toys. I think that's great. The one thing I worry about with metal toys is not having the edges sufficiently softened before use. But I think that's great. We'll have a good DIY project. But getting back to the how do you say something to start things? I feel like this is the hardest like thing that people don't talk about is like, but how do you start a BDSM scene though? But how do you start a BDSM scene? And like sometimes it is literally just like, hey, what are you in the mood for right now? Like, what do you want to do? Sometimes literally just like, I would love to do a spanking right now. Like, how are you feeling about this? And this is like, I think why bratting works for a lot of people is because it gives very specific parameters of like non-verbal ways to start a scene. Like if you have a brat where they have a rule they're, supposed to put the dishes away before you get home and they left the dishwasher open and then didn't put away any of the dishes and opened up all of the cabinets, they are cruising for a bruising. That is the phrase. And then it's very clear that they want to have some kind of attention physically without having to say anything. Whereas if you're dealing with like a BDSM dynamic that's not really involving that and you need to have that explicit consent, obviously, before starting to do something, then it is, I think, a lot harder to just like spontaneously be like, oh, we're going to do this now. I know a lot of people that like covertly ask for BDSM stuff by like bringing their partner a particular item, like bringing them a leash and kneeling for them, or bringing them coffee in a particular coffee cup to like let the other partner know what their mental state is, like especially if it's a submissive approaching the dominant partner, and basically offering, hey, like I'm open to doing this, but now it's up to you whether or not you act on it based on that information because you're the dom and you are the one that's in control. But I'm not a top. Really? I top sometimes, but I pretty much only top for pickup play and not in like a relationship thing. So like if I'm approaching someone for play or vice versa, it's very explicit and obvious. So I unfortunately don't really have a lot of advice for like particular phrases that you can use that like I know have worked for me in my experience. But if other people do, feel free to share that in the comments in the chat currently going because this is a live stream. Just trying to think of anything that I would be like, oh, this would totally work. It totally depends on your relationship dynamic. Like, you could have a situation where you, like, lay out a bunch of toys on, like, the coffee table for them, and then have them pick what they want to play with, and then if they pick nothing, then you don't play. Like, or, you text them during the day, and then you kind of do that flirty stuff, and then work up to like, I'm looking forward so much to when you come home tonight. I can't wait to do insert thing that we talked about here, right? But it's really hard, for sure. It's awkward, and sometimes you just gotta embrace the awkward. Yes, the special coffee cup. It is It is a great tool, especially as a submissive who feels like a lot of submissives feel like they're not allowed to ask for play because they feel like it's like topping from the bottom. There are totally subtle ways that you could tell your partner, like I said, with the bringing objects and the coffee cup, that signal, hey, I'd like to do this thing, but ultimately leaving the choice of initiating something to the dominant partner. What was the situation when you realized you were into BDSM? Was there a moment where it awoke you? When were you like, I like this? Why is it when I start sipping on this drink, it makes you cough? What's happening, tiny girl? What is going on, my tiny, beautiful girl? I feel like the moment when I realized I was into BDSM, like for real, was I was taking the BDSMtest.org, the oldie famous test that everyone takes. And I think one of my top scores, like either my top 1 or 2, was Primal Prey. And like Primal Predator was pretty up there as well, TBH. Let's be honest. I have a very different persona as a top. Anyways, I was reading about Primal Play, and I think that was when it like stuck with me, that I was like, oh, I'm into this. Because though a lot of the BDSM that I end up doing is like very like explicitly negotiated and very like this and this, like, because that's, oh my goodness, come here, sweetheart. What is wrong? Come here. Come here. You're on the... Do you not want to come here? Are you on the bed? Sweetheart. What's going on? Did we not get enough water today? No? Maybe I'll pick up your collar for a little bit, and maybe that'll be more comfortable. I don't know. Alright, Bandita going on lap. Tiny dog on lap. Do you want to say hello to everyone? Hello, my tiny dog. Hello. Alright. She's like, why did you bring me here? Why have you forced me here, human? How dare you? But I was reading about Primal Play, and I realized that wasn't really stuck with me because, like I was saying, a lot of the scenes that I do are very like orderly and like pre-negotiated, and like I know exactly what's gonna happen because I'm not a surprise person. And this is like why Primal Play is like kind of hard to balance. Is like I don't like surprise. I don't like not knowing there's gonna be a whip and then like suddenly there's a whip. Like that freaks me out. Like I am okay not knowing the particulars, but I need to know what's in the realm of possibility. But my ideal is like I like doing things that are like raw, in the moment, spontaneous, based on the energy of the people involved, and is very like fighty, but not in a bratty way. That involves being like physically overcome, like wrestling and things like that, and like this is very organic. And like realizing that was a possibility of a thing I could actually do and like have, and that other people would want to do that with me, was like, this seems really fun. And then I decided BDSM was for me. Anyways, that's my story. That, and I like to pretend to be a dog as a child, and pretend everything, really. Just playing pretend was like my favorite thing, and that I could do that as an adult in a relationship. Also fun. Also, why not? Yes, it's her little birthday. You're 10. Such a mature girl, so refined. Such a mature girl. Aren't we so pretty and so cute? Yes, yes, yes. Oh, listen. The fear of being rejected for being too weird or not weird enough. Oh, isn't that a thing? That is a thing. When you have a situation where it's like, I'm not even weird enough for the weird people. That happens. Like, it's like, I like BDSM, but I don't want to shave my eyebrows. And I'm doing this example a lot tonight. I don't want to shave my eyebrows and get a barcode tattooed on my neck. And I don't want to, it's like, okay, I'm into spanking, but I don't want to get my nails pulled off. Like, I don't want to get my fingernails pulled out by like hot tongs. Like, I'm not here for medieval torture. That can be really hard, like that fear of like not being enough for other people, for sure. Oh no, okay. I think I lost. Oh no, I'm good. I thought I lost some in the chat, but I didn't. Good. We do have half an hour left, so definitely make sure you're getting your questions in there so I have time to answer them. No, the name of the dating app was not FetLife. It's Field. It's FEELD. Unless you're saying fuck FetLife, in which case, soft agree. I've hired a pro dom before. It was so freeing and positive. Like, it can be a really good experience. I've definitely done stuff with pro doms before. Not for really a long time. But it was very good. Like, if you get a good pro dom, like, there's a reason they're professionals, Yeah, I haven't really thought too much about like the ethics of like being a professional submissive because that's like not super common, and so like I'm not sure what the boundaries of that are. But all the people I know that work as professional submissives are doing it. They don't do it like solo. They do it in, and this is just the people I know. I'm not saying this is like an absolute thing for everyone, but the pro submissives I know all work at like a house of domination. And it's like part of the services that they offer. And it's like supervised. And there's lots of other people around and that kind of thing. And it involves a lot of vetting. For sure. Lots of vetting. And security cameras, I imagine. Ooh, good question. Would you recommend attending a local convention if you're a total newbie interested in getting to know the local scene? I would say this depends on the convention. Because not all... This little... piece of hair. There we go. Not all BDSM conventions are the same. And some BDSM conventions are going to be very newbie friendly and have a lot of intro classes and be a good way to meet people and have lots of like social events and social hours. That would be great. Like, definitely look at the class schedule, see what kind of the 101 level class options are. They may even have a newbie track for new people. But there are also a lot of conventions that are specifically not that newbies wouldn't be allowed, but they are for a higher skill set because it can be harder to find more advanced content versus like intro stuff. Like, there's 1,000 ways to get flogging 101 information. It's very hard to get information on like advanced uses of medical staples, like, that kind of a thing. So, if it's a convention where like all of the classes are like theory or discussions or are like dealing with the ending of an MS relationship, like if it's like really high level stuff, then you might not get a lot out of the experience and it may not be as like focused on socials and getting to know people and that kind of thing. But again, totally depends. You're gonna have to look at what classes the convention is offering, and also like does it have like the social kind of things that you would be wanting to go to get to know a local scene, because you can't necessarily judge a local scene by a convention, because sometimes like conventions are hosted by people that are not from the area at all.
Donated $10.
Aw, thank
Hello,
you.
Bandit smiley face. Happy birthday, Tilda.
Yes, happy birthday, sweet girl, yes, who has had an upset tummy for about a day. But we're good. We're such a good girl. Yeah. But yeah, I think in general, like let's say you don't have access to that information before you decide to buy tickets. If it's something where you don't have to buy a separate hotel room and you could either go to it from your house and then not have to pay for hotel fees and room service and all that. Like, if it's something that's like not going to be super expensive for you, basically is what I'm saying, I think it's worth it to go to it, personally. But if it's going to be like, oh, we have to pay $400 for hotel rooms and the tickets are $250 each, and also like if it gets into you're spending thousands of dollars for this, then probably don't do it. But if it's like $100 a ticket, you know. That is a seed from a lemon. All right, boba tea is done. Lemon seed of death. That was very insightful, Evie. I really want to create simplicity with my sub. Your point makes me think it's better to create my sub's life easier than to dome multiple subs. I think so. I think if that's like your goal for, I think it's like, yeah, you have to think about what is your goal for BDSM. Like if what you want is something very simplistic and easy to follow on a consistent basis, and that is more meaningful to you than like very fancy rules that get followed occasionally, then totally do that for sure. And definitely being a dom to multiple submissives is harder. Personally, in my opinion, I think it's easier to have multiple dominants than multiple submissives, because multiple dominants don't necessarily have to interact with each other at all. They don't necessarily have to be involved with each other in any way. Like you can definitely have, I think, an easier V triad with 2 doms than you can with 2 subs. But it depends on like how dom the dom is. Because I'm using dom in a very general way. You could have 2 doms and you just have bedroom only relationships, and so like unless you're doing a threesome, like there's no reason your power exchange would ever overlap with the other one's power exchange. You know what I mean? I know a couple that was into a master Padawan. Is that, oh god, I haven't watched Star Wars in forever. Oh my god, a master Padawan BDSM relationship. I'm actually, you know what? I'm surprised there's not more of that, to be honest. How is that not? Because there's so many fucking nerds in the BDSM community. How is that not more popular? I know, she's a little honky girl. Little honky girl. Honk, honk, honk. Yeah, definitely like if you can, for ankle strengthening stuff, you can totally look up like physical therapy exercises for like restoring ankle stability and like ankle extension. Lots of information on YouTube out there for that. Because ankle injuries are pretty common, so lots of resources for it. Even if you're not recovering from an injury, but just like, you know, improving what's already there. Evie, have you ever run into people who were into BDSM things as children before they even knew BDSM existed? I did, but I always feel weird, like the only person that experienced it that way. It depends on what you mean by BDSM things. like, like I definitely knew kids that were really into playing cops and robbers and like pretending to handcuff their friends, or like people that liked being wrestled to the ground, or people that like to tie up their dolls. Um, I, I think that it depends. Like, again, it just depends on how you define that. Sorry, I thought I had a mod in the chat, but I guess I don't anymore. Report. Great, thank you. No, okay, I think I was almost where I was before. No, I think I lost what I was talking about. Oh no. Something about chicken noodle soup. Oh no, okay, we're good. Give me a second here to find where it was in the chat. Okay, I feel like everyone here is very like neutral in the term master, which I feel like means I've done my job. That people understand the ways that it can be used and being affirming of other people's choices. You love to see it. Oh, yes. Yeah, I think people can have interests that end up being related to BDSM stuff, but I think it's important to not like psychoanalyze children as like being future kinky people because they have certain interests in things. Because most times, like children grow out of stuff like that, or it's a phase, and it's like it would just be weird to be like, oh, they're gonna be kinky when they're older, you know? Sorry, honey, I'm gonna let you down. Thank you for hanging out with me. Okay. I don't know. I just like I haven't even been like awake that long, but I just suddenly got hit with a wave of being like really tired. My brain's like no more awakeness for you. I don't know why. Because this tea isn't even caffeinated, I don't think. No, it's basically just lemonade. Not even, and I only drank half of it. It was mostly diluted with melted ice. Oh, you can do calf raises. Sorry, I forgot that. Obviously, calf raises. Advice on my partner telling that I sell feet pics to their dad. Wait, what? Okay, wait. I will be slow. So I'm gonna read it verbatim as it's written, and then I feel like I'm missing something. Advice on my partner telling that I sell feet pics to their dad without my consent. Oh, okay, I see. So you sell feet pics, and then your partner told their dad that you do that. Oh my god. Okay. Well, first of all, you have any feelings that you are currently feeling as a result of this, you have every right to feel. If my partner like told somebody without my permission that YouTube was my job and here's their YouTube channel, like they told their fucking parents, like I'd freak out. I would be like, "Oh my god, what?" No. Only you can decide what level of offense you consider this to be. If this is a severe violation of your trust, if this is like a little oopsie mistake. Because I think it's like, it's one thing if you didn't establish beforehand that like, hey, I want this part of my life to be private and don't talk to other people about this without my permission, that would make me uncomfortable. Like if you establish that up front and then they did it anyways because, well, it's my dad, I should be able to tell my dad anything. Like that's super shitty. But if it's a situation where like it wasn't clarified ahead of time and you didn't realize the harm that could cause and you just hadn't established beforehand you didn't want them to do that, then I think there's more room for forgiveness. But that's up to you. I probably just like lay down the facts and be like, that made me really uncomfortable. It's like that's actually kind of dangerous for me. I don't really want people that I don't know really intimately to have this information, and I want to be able to decide when I share what part of my work is or part of a way that I make money. So I would probably go with just establishing, first of all, that can never ever happen again, and you absolutely do need to grant permission before they can share that information with anyone else. But if that's like, if you don't think you can forgive them for this and you just think this is going to be like a shadow over your relationship, like don't sugarcoat it necessarily either. But again, it depends on sort of what happened. But that's really hard. Like that's like I don't sell feet pics, so I haven't had something like that happen before. But I could see how that would happen. And definitely let them know, like, hey, like give them the reality of your feelings. But like it made me feel scared. I feel really embarrassed about it. I feel like my power to decide when to inform people about the fact that I do this sex work or whatever, like that got taken away from me, and I don't want that to be out of my control. So this is following up on the like getting smitten question and letting people down easy. Yes, it's right after that, and for about 2 weeks after, they're still flying high from subspace. I'll do my regular top bottom check in, check up, aftercare thing. Oh yeah. I mean, especially like if it sounds like you kind of already got it figured out, but like if they're going through subspace, it might be like you might want to like gently remind them, hey, I you know, just so you know, like you could still be feeling the effects from subspace, and just keep that in mind when you are going through your emotions. That's what I do. Did Banda get her surgery? Oh, she did get a surgery consultation done, which was the next step. And they're saying at this point that she's we're at the point now where it's like, okay, you have approval to like get back up to her previous activity level, and as long as she can get back up to her previous activity level, then if she can handle that, then we cannot need surgery. But if she can't and she's struggling a lot, dealing with like her previous level of energy, then like surgery might be necessary. But it's looking like it's probably going to not be, which is good. I'm wanting to get into my local community to meet people. My kinks are more edge play CNC, which obviously will have to wait. I feel weird talking about these types of kink with strangers. Any advice? Go to a munch and see what people are talking about at the munch is my advice. Because I've definitely been to munches where things get into like I'll just give an example. There was one time I was at a munch, and within 15 minutes of me being there, we were having a conversation about like somebody doing a scene where they were putting needles into their partner's back and then punching the needles. So things can certainly go in an edge play direction very quickly if people are comfortable and they know each other and it's like a safe space to do that. So I understand feeling weird about it, but like maybe if you can hear other people in that community talk about those kinds of things or talk about their kinks, maybe that'll help you feel more comfortable talking about that with strangers. But you also don't necessarily have to talk about those kinks with strangers anyways, because unless you're looking to do a scene with them, they don't necessarily need to know about the particulars of the kink, you know? Thanks for the advice, Evie, in chat. I do want to be able to stand in them, but I also like the bondage feeling since they're locked on my feet. Oh, yes, with the locks on them, for sure. Yeah, if you're just working on standing and necessarily walking in them, like definitely doing like calf and ankle strengthening exercises will really, really help with that. And literally when you start, by the way, I didn't mention this, when you start wearing them, like literally wear them for like 10 to 15 minutes at a time. You don't have to wear them for very long, and it's more important to do like short bits of wearing them and lots of rest than it is to like wear them or try to wear them anyways for like an hour or two and then like be dealing with the pain and soreness later, because you got to be able to use your ankles for most things. I like to spend the night with my hands tied behind me. Is it safe? No. Especially if you're doing it alone. I never advise sleeping in bondage. That is not easily removable. I say that as a person that lives in an earthquake and tsunami prone area. I would never want to be in a situation where I could not remove myself from restraints quickly and easily at nighttime. I never advise being in bondage alone. I never advise being in bondage you can't easily get out of. It's one thing if it's like you're practicing rope bondage and you tie something to an ankle but both your hands are free, versus having your hands tied behind your back. No, definitely not safe. I don't recommend doing that. If you're going to be in bondage at nighttime, I recommend investing in panic snaps and things that are easily breakable, or that are just like not even necessarily locked, you know? Like you can be in bondage without it being locked in and like literally would be able to be removed just by like, you know, I don't know, like unhinging a latch on a door basically. Something really, really easy and simple if you're going to do it, which I don't necessarily recommend because it is very dangerous and that's how you die. People being trapped in bondage is how you die. Let's just get it out there. It's dark, I know, but it's true. It is true. Very dangerous. Alright, I'm trying to find... Ah, here we go. Okay. Okay, this is a monogamy and BDSM. I think I already answered that earlier today. Partners being competitive was one of my biggest pet peeves, to be honest. I mean, like, I only blame people so much because I think our culture really trains people to be that way. Like, we expect people... Like, it's the same thing with jealousy. Like, we're really taught to view jealousy as, like, this, like, oh, yeah, you gotta be... If they're not jealous, it means they don't love you or they don't care about you enough. And... whatever. And that's not true, right? But like our media and romance movies present it that way. It's like, oh, well, like jealousy is just part of being in love. And if you're not jealous, you're not really in love. And I think competitiveness is part of it as well, because then you're having to prove that you're the best. I'm not sure where that comes from. I don't even necessarily know if it's about relationships. I think it's about the way that we treat people to view each other, especially when it's women viewing each other. It's like they're your rivals and they have to be taken down. Don't even get me started about people that are switches and they're all in a poly BDSM power changing dynamic. There is nothing that is more prone to messiness on this planet than a polycule with one male dom and 4 female switches all sharing the same partner. Like that, like it can be fun. It can also be messy as fuck. Like never want to be in that relationship. Love to watch from the outside because I'm a messy bitch and I love drama. What can I say? I have my vices. My vice is people being messy and going, that could have gone differently. That's my vice. Do you have any advice on how to introduce power exchange and BDSM to a new male partner? Don't want to top from the bottom from the start. Oh, like a new dom. I do have several videos about that. So if you haven't watched those yet, I would recommend them. We do only have about 10 minutes left. So because I do have those other resources, I'm going to skip over answering that for now and then maybe move on to something I don't already have a video about. Just FYI. Does DDLB resemble a father-son relationship? So DDLB stands for Daddy Dom Little Boy. I mean, I think definitionally, based on the fact that it's a little boy and a daddy dom, you could say that resembles a father-son relationship. But not knowing anyone in a daddy dom little boy relationship, I can't really say with any authority for sure. I think it's not any more that way than like a DDLG relationship is a father-daughter relationship. Like there's definitely similarities, but it's not like incest, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. I always have to. There's always at least one time on this live stream. I always have to explain something like that. I have lost friends due to the concept of emotional cheating. Oh my god, this is the worst. It's like you can't have you could become an adult and then you can't have friendships with people that are like the gender you're supposedly attracted to, or one of the genders that you're attracted to. Like it's so silly to me. Like what? Like I feel like if you can't trust your partner to be upfront with you about their emotional relationships with other people, you probably shouldn't be in a relationship with them, and you should probably do some self-work. Or maybe the person's proven previously they're not worthy of trust, in which case you have to repair that trust bond before you do shit like that. Because flailing around and controlling your partner and telling them you need to not talk to this person anymore, you can't be friends with them anymore, like holy shit, that gets abusive real quickly. Let's not even get into that can of worms, because a lot of people that are very interested in controlling their partners emotionally and the people they have connections with do not have good intentions for that relationship. I hate, oh no, here we go. Wait, I thought I saw a question. Okay, we have like under 10 minutes left, so I'm trying to get to the questions. I'm probably missing stuff. Oh yeah, you can wear like, you can wear, to be clear, I guess if you're considering chastity to be bondage, I'm talking about like lockable things that make it harder for you to move and escape from a place. Like unless your dick is tied to a bed frame, like probably okay. I don't think sleeping in chastity would be comfortable, but like you can wear a butt plug to sleep. I used to do that all the time. Totally, for sure. But just don't tie your dick to a bedpost overnight. That's all I've got to say. Emotional control can be so dangerous and destructive. I think that's really what the problem is. Like I think Like, if your partner isn't getting their emotional needs met in your relationship and needs to have friendship for additional support, which is totally valid and normal and fine, by the way, getting all of your needs from one person is a lot of pressure. But people think about physical control a lot and they don't think about emotional control. And I would almost say that emotional control can be more damaging because people understand that getting a black eye is bad. They understand that getting things thrown at you is bad. But when it comes to a partner like telling you you're not allowed to have friends anymore, like, there's a lot of people that would just agree with that and be like, yeah, when you're in a committed relationship, you shouldn't be friends with guys anymore. Like, isn't that what all these fucking pickup artist podcasts say? You know, isn't that what they all talk about? Silly. Silly, 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 silly. Breaks are great not just for figuring out how to continue a relationship, but also for mental health. I've had to take multiple breaks in all of my relationships for mental health, and if someone doesn't want to wait or stay, that's their choice and shows that they weren't right for me in the first place. Yes, very good point. Sometimes like you have to like sometimes a break isn't just like I mean, you have to be prepared for the idea that sometimes taking a break means that at the end of the break, you decide you want to keep being on a break, which means that you break up. And that happens. Like that's part of the life experience. And like if you can figure that out in like the calmness of a break and maybe have an easier transition out of a relationship because of that, I think that's fine. But also if somebody's like infuriated at the idea that you would want to have a break and freaks out about it and like still tries to call you every day, still tries to text you every day, like can you have a healthy relationship that's that, you know? I don't think so, but maybe for someone else. Okay, I think I talked about where this collar was from, which is from the Kitten Collection. Oh, no worries. I posted that last February, so if you didn't see it, like, no worries. No worries, my dude. Or dudette, or etc. gender. I have a really hard time letting go of the fact that dude is not a gender neutral term. That is kind of a hill that I'm willing to die on, but not fully. I'm willing to get severely injured on that hill, but not like fully commit. Nina asks, hi Evie Love from Venezuela. Can you talk about how some doms feel entitled to message you asking you to be their subs because they see sub on your profile? Happened to me in FetLife. Oh, Nina, this happens all the time. I have seen this happen. I have had this happen to me. Everyone I know pretty much that has ever made a FetLife account or has a public social media or a dating profile where they say they're submissive happens to everyone. And my only real piece of advice is that they're probably not a dom that you want to be around. They're not really representative of most people that are doms. So blocking and moving on and not thinking twice about it is probably the best option. A lot of people feel like kind of guilty about blocking. And I just don't think you should feel guilty about blocking. Like, if it's a random person that out of nowhere is like, will you be my slave? It's like, you don't owe them anything. Like, what? They're the one that out of nowhere was like, this is going to be my opening. This is going to be my opening for this conversation. Like, I don't even think they expect it to work. I think they do expect to be blocked most of the time, which is why they probably do it to everyone in like a 50-mile radius. But, you know, that's really the only solution. There's not really much else that can be done to prevent it. You can say in your profile, don't message me, don't do this. I almost feel like sometimes that must make them do it more. But most people that do stuff like that don't read profiles. They just like scan and look for like a submissive oriented label and then go, perfect, that's all I needed, you know? Yeah, I wouldn't, and also like I don't recommend looking for relationships on FetLife, just for the record. FetLife is a good way to connect with people that you meet somewhere in real life afterwards. It's a good way to find events and parties and conventions. It is shit for meeting individual people. I actually don't know anyone that has a relationship that started on FetLife, like just from FetLife, where they like met on FetLife and all of that. Like, I'm sure it happens, I just don't know anyone. Dumpster fire more relatable than FetLife. I mean, accurate. Metal toys and EMS gear. Like emergency medical services? Electronic medical stimulation. Wait, does that stand for what I think it stands for? Is that like EMS, like ambulance drivers? Like, I mean, yes, metal toys can be electroconductive and fun to use with violet wands. Is that? I don't know. I don't really like electroplay, so anything that involves metal being electroconductive is not really my wheelhouse. I know. There are types of BDSM I don't like. I know that's shocking. But not in a way where I'm like, this is dangerous and bad and no one should do it. I just mean, like, not my thing. Like electroplay, unless it's a TENS unit, and even then it's kind of like borderline. Like, I don't really like electroplay. Like, the sensation of it is, like, it freaks me out. Oh, okay. This is going to be a good question to end on, I think. So Starla says, my partner and I are new to BDSM. I'm having a hard time getting him to talk with me about kink contract stuff. He wants me to write it out myself, but I want it to be a shared learning experience. So I'm going to guess, Starla, that this is a dom, and you... Oh, you're okay. It says, by the way, I'm sub. Okay, perfect. That I made the correct assumption then. Sometimes assumptions do work when you have the ability to make an educated guess. So I think that's bullshit. First of all, like, I hate lazy dogs so much. Ugh, okay. Sorry, I had to just scream. I couldn't have a pillow, so I had to scream into the floor. 'Cause I feel like this requires an investigation of, like, why do you want me to write my own contract? Because at that point, you're doming yourself. like, if he's not involved in that process, like, it's one thing if it's like, okay. Best possible interpretation I can think of for what he's doing is he is treating it like a service thing where he wants you to write the contract, like the base of it, so he knows absolutely what you want and are comfortable with the intention that he's going to modify it and add to it and approve it. And it's like you providing him a service by writing the contract. Best possible interpretation. I think this tells a lot of flaws to it, but that could be what's going on. Or it could be that he doesn't want to admit that he's nervous and doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't really know what's involved in the contract. So instead of writing the contract himself and taking the blame when it doesn't go very well, he wants you to write it so it's your fault when the contract is shit. And here we are. It's just... I can't, like... I know there has to be other positive interpretations for why he'd be like, I need you to write the contract, but I'm just struggling with that because I get so many messages and questions and comments every single day from people that are new to BDSM, that are submissive, that have a boyfriend that agrees to be their dog, and then doesn't want to read anything, and doesn't want to look at tutorials, doesn't want to watch YouTube videos, doesn't want to listen to podcasts, doesn't want to practice stuff on themselves, just wants to be able to just, like, do the bare fucking minimum, and then still call themselves a dom. So I just think that you, like, you don't actually have a dynamic yet because you haven't actually fulfilled the contract, I'm assuming. So, just as a relationship thing, I feel like you should be able to say, hey, I am really excited about trying BDSM with you. I'm really glad we're going to be going on this journey together. However, it is really important to me that this contract is a both of us working on this together, and if it can't be that, then I don't want to have this contract. Like, you just have to lay down the law of, like, it's not really laying down the law, but you have to be very clear about, like, you do, like, I feel like this is the kind of thing that sets in motion a relationship where, like, they're going to be coasting, they're going to be doing the minimum, you're doing all the work, you're the one who's reminding them to do punishments. Like, I've seen this play out. I've seen this dynamic play out, and it doesn't end well. Like, it's one, like, they have to be able to talk to you. You have to at least, like, be able to have the conversation about, like, hey, like, I really want this to be an us together project. Why can't it be that? Like, what is the block, and can I help you work through that block? And if they still can't name it, they don't know themselves enough to be a dom. Like, if they can even say why they don't want to write a contract or why they don't want to work on a contract together with you. Because, like, you could still be the one to do the physical writing of it if that's the problem. But, like, they need to at least be able to articulate what they as a dom want in a contract. And if they can't have that conversation, they're not prepared for the responsibility that comes with actually being a dom. Rant about lazy shit. Just, like, if you can't, like, if it's just like, oh, I don't feel like it, I don't like writing, I don't really know what would go in a contract. Okay, well, then you don't know enough to be a dom. Come back to me when you have read up on example contracts and looked at bad ones and looked at good ones and figured out which ones worked or not. Like, there are resources for this. You can Google example BDSM contract. And also, I would add, if you're new to BDSM, you don't need a contract. I would even just, like having a contract is fun. Have that be something you work up to. Maybe it's too much to, like, have a contract at the very beginning. And I think a lot of people make this mistake. They think, oh my god, this is so hot and amazing, we're exploring BDSM together, and they get the fancy titles, and they get a contract, and they've got 20 rules, and they're master this and slave that and whatever. And they haven't done any actual scenes together at all. And I'm not saying that, I'm just, like, this is a general example. I'm not talking about you, Starla. But, like, they're horny for the contract. They're horny for getting to use the titles. And so instead of making something, this is actually tying back around to our original subject, instead of making something sustainable that is based on the reality of having a BDSM relationship together, what ends up being made is a theoretical contract based on the theory of what two people are guessing at, which is the opposite of what you want to be doing. So I think it's better than having a contract and titles and shit first. Like, start by actually doing BDSM, and I'm assuming you haven't done this, but this is more general advice, is, like, start by actually, like, doing actual real-life BDSM together, do some scenes together, have power exchange that you negotiate for in those scenes, experiment with different things that feel good or not so good. You don't have to have a contract to have power exchange. You can just, like, on a weekend, negotiate for a power exchange scene where, like, you make breakfast and serve him pancakes on hands and knees, and, like, you feed him, like, little bits of pancake. Like, I don't care. Like, you know, you can have little samplers of trying out power exchange without actually having to, like, fully commit to, like, a written, signed in blood document, you know? So don't go too fast. I know a lot of people think if we have a DS relationship, we have to have a contract. That's step 1. That's, like, step 10. That's, like, you work up there, you know? You work up there. That's my opinion, personally. Okay, I'm gonna scroll to the very bottom here, and it's 6 after, so we're on bonus time. We're on bonus time right now. No, so Nox Bunny, it could have been that your time zone changed and mine didn't, but we are just about to wrap up, so unfortunately you are 2 hours late. I'm quite sorry. If a partner trusts you to explore BDSM with them as a submissive, just put in some fucking effort. Many people really want to have what you were being offered. Literally, though, the lack of fucking gratitude is just, like, on either side of the slash. It's like somebody is like, I want to be dominant, and like, okay, first of all, how many times have you heard the conversation where it's like somebody wants to be a dominant and their partner doesn't want to be submissive to them? That never happens. But, like, if somebody is, like, offering, like, they're putting their fucking submission on a silver platter and is like, I want this relationship with you, I want to be your submissive, and then they're just like, okay, you write a contract first, I guess. Like, what? Okay, I don't think you really want to be in this relationship then. Put in the bare minimum fucking effort, because, listen, writing the contract is the easy part. If you cannot do that, You are not ready for rule enforcement and punishment and renegotiation and hard feedback conversations after scenes and maintaining a dynamic headspace and asking for play and aftercare. Like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. And it's okay. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to be. Don't rush. Take your time, okay? I think you have, exactly. I think you have to be sure about what you both want. If you're newer in a relationship, it's okay to have it be provisional and have it be like, here's something we want to try, and like in 4 weeks we will revisit this. You can have provisional contracts that are meant to be very temporary and are meant to be revisited in full on a regular basis. But if you want like a year and a day type thing, you will have to know what you want and not be afraid to share that information, and more importantly, not be afraid to say no to things you don't want. Like if you're a dom and you see in your contract that you're submissive because you told them to write the contract by themselves, if you see that they put in a rule there where you're supposed to have 4 daily check-ins and you're like not available for that, and you just say, oh, well, that's what they want, so I'm gonna just do it. No, don't do that. Don't just agree to random shit. Come on. Yes, we are on bonus time. It's true. Yes, we're here for the... I hope an epic badass rant is coming. I mean, I hope that it's a little bit late for like a full-on rant, but I hope I gave at least a little good mini rant in there. That's sort of an arrow issue. But anyways... thank you all so much for being here. I'm gonna go because I need to finish editing a video. That rhymed. I am an artiste. And also take Bendy to outside. A lot of things I got going on. So, what did we learn here today? Don't overpromise. Remember your needs. Take your time. Check in with yourself. Take breaks. Don't make promises your ass can't cash. Which is even more true in BDSM, because sometimes your ass really cannot cash the brattery that you've written yourself. So anyways, that's gonna be the theme, I guess. That's a note to end it on. Thank you all again so much for being here. I really enjoy always these live streams with you all. You're so entertaining. I hope I'm entertaining. And we will be back next Friday at 6. We do start at 6. I have all the times that the stream starts in different time zones, like the big major ones that I know I have an audience in. That's down below. So check that out if you have not already. And I will talk to you again very, very soon. Bye.